All right, let's get started on Steven Crowder.
Let's jump into this first story. We have this stopbigcon.com.
Yeah.
Louder with Crowder, stop Big Con, stay in Mug Club, or join a new, enter your email below. So let's get started and talk about from the beginning. You, most people are familiar with the story.
Yeah.
I want to make sure as we get this started, I want to make sure there's important contextual understanding. People have asked why it's so important that, and why is everybody interested in this story? Why have we talked about it so much? First, I will say, well, I'm biased. I worked for big corporations. I've run my own company. I have this passion for how the media companies operate, how I operate my media company, my vision for the future. And I know so much about this. It's something I care about. When I hear about it, I'm just driven to want to understand more, talk about it, share these ideas. But it's more than just that. I just want to make sure that my bias is clear. It's that I, for one, have taken issue with the establishment media, the traditional media systems, how they operate with contracts. And so trying to build something different, I see what Crowder announced and what he's talking about, and I ideologically agree. So this conversation could change the shape of how media moves forward as the corporate media system is dying, firing people, laying people off, and an independent ecosystem is emerging with these networks. Which form is it going to take? It could go completely corporate, it could go completely independent, it could be a mix of both. But this is a conversation that is extremely important moving forward. So we're hanging out with Steven Crowder and Gerald, of course, to talk about all this.
The business side more. I don't really take care of the finances as much. But
what's the story here? What's the story?
Well, first off, let me set something up off the bat. I want to make sure that everyone here knows. Like, I know that you guys have made very clear that you're monetized on YouTube because you believe that you can fight against big tech by sort of operating to some degree within the rules. But you've been very transparent about it, and so I don't want you to think that that is at all the same as what I have a problem with. And I mean, we can go back to a few things. Look, it really comes down to what's right. It really comes down to what the truth is. And this is something that's been a long time coming. Gerald actually came on as CEO because we're being batted around so long. This is years and years in the making. I get the point with corporate media.
Why can't you just be honest, bro? Like, why? Why can't you just be like, yeah, I wanna build a media list, you know? Everything has to be about like fighting the big guy. We know the big guy's on your back. All these dudes in the same room saying the same bull, like, oh man, we're fighting against all these enemies, these shadowy enemies. It's like, bro, what do you mean? Like, people who control society give you money all the time, okay? And they give you money because they like what you're saying. They like that you are saying things, okay? They like that you are saying things that they agree with. It's the racism, but not because they're personally racist. I don't think a lot of these billionaires are personally, individually like, oh man, I love how anti-black these guys are. It's because that kind of racism reinforced in society is a great distraction, is a great divider, okay, of the working class, and it's a great distraction. That's it. For people who say like, oh man, like, you know, all these like billionaire CEOs, they're like individually so incredibly racist, like, not all of them are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to matter. It's a very liberal, like main villain type attitude. It's like a very spiritual analysis to try to comprehend like the internal racist machinations of a billionaire, when the main purpose of that racial agitative propaganda is basically to reinforce the fundamental white supremacist values that society was built on, with the express purpose of dividing the working class. That's it. It doesn't matter if they're individually racist or not. There's no reason to moralize it, okay? There's no reason to look at that and moralize it and try to figure out who's like personally actually racist, who's not. Like, none of it matters. When we're talking about systemic issues, when we're talking about like what role extremely wealthy people play and why they fund conservative propaganda, what you need to understand is it doesn't matter what personal opinions are. What matters is that this is a very valuable tool to keep the working poor divided.
The issue that I have with many in the conservative side of this sphere is the fundamental misleading and dishonesty. That's what I have a problem with. And you see that here as this story took place. Kind of it started right where we released this video. We didn't, and it was just by design, didn't name names because there could be a litany of contracts that are similar to this. A lot of them are often verbal offers.
We mentioned it could have been Fox News for all anyone knew. And they're the corporate monolith.
There's about 4 or 5. I would say we have 4 or 5 offers, and then there are other investors who come into the space who just want to dump in a whole bunch of money. Daily Wire here outed themselves, and I understand that people are saying, well, people knew who it was. Well, that's because some of the people who were under those contracts said, yeah, I recognize those contracts. And Candace said on this show, I recognize the terms from my contract. Here's the thing. I said, this is wrong. Penalizing conservatives, and I believe this to my absolute core, penalizing conservatives on behalf of big tech while taking money from people who are paying you, investing in you to fight big tech. That is what they're investing in. That is what Mug Club is investing in. That's what subscribers are investing in.
It's awesome. He's just like, dude, you come to me because I tell you all dumb. I'm a dumb guy, and I'm telling you the most racist bullshit that you can hear, okay? And you want to hear more of that. And big tech is so against it, dude. They're so against it. So, hey, you just got to, sometimes I'm going to get banned, so you got to go to my Mug Club to get all the OnlyClans content, I paywalled it. Just got to do it.
While simultaneously penalizing conservatives is fundamentally wrong. I had that conversation, said, look, just please give me your word. You're not going to be doing this with other people who, as you well know, when you start in this industry, don't know better. Immediately after that, right, the conversation was, Crowder is making a big deal as a dick about money, right? Basketball money. $50 million a year was the implication, which you know is not true. People aren't saying that now. That's not what people have a problem with.
Yeah, because people are stupid. Like, the entire audience is like conditioned to the dumbest person in the room. The entire audience is geared toward like the conservative movement is geared towards the dumbest guy you know. Okay? So of course, when you're saying dumb shit, like when you're dumbing down your racist agitprop to a degree where like it gets so out of hand that you get banned for it, right? And you can't do the dog whistles like Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro or even Tim Pool or Tucker Carlson, who was the dog whistle master, right? You will get benefits from it. You get a lot of benefits from it. Like Steven Crowder has an audience despite being a hack, right? Because a lot of people are stupid. But now that you've cultivated that audience, specifically of conservatives who are oftentimes very dumber than the average person, you are, the other people that are usually using dog whistles are going to come across like they're disingenuous. The other guys that only do dog whistles, well, they're disingenuous guys. They're not serious about the racism. They don't want to put their money where their mouth is. Look at me. I'm the real guy. I'm the real dumb guy. I'm like you. I say the things you want to hear, and then I paywall the other juicy tidbits.
People have a problem with, I understand, is the idea of a phone call. And now the narrative has shifted to betrayal of a friend. That's what people want to say. I say less straw. I say this is something that I've watched, experienced for years, tried to give every possible out to do the right thing, and have tried to do the right thing in the way that we run our own business. Saw the gaslighting, the bully tactics that take place behind the scenes of other creators, and knew it wouldn't be myself. So now the narrative shifts to how could you record a phone call, betray a friend? Well, hold on a second. It was just about money. This is just business, and now it's, hey, we're really good friends. Well, which is it? I mean, you kind of have to pick a lane, right? Are we good friends, or are you sending out a boilerplate contract that you demand of everybody according to what they say? They have 110% penalties on behalf of big tech. And the issue with that is that it's dishonest. It's a tactic of the left. It's a tactic, the same kind of tactic that you see from the left, the gaslighting, where let me ask you this. If someone came out,
real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. You said 110% penalty?
Yeah, you can see the contract right there. If you add them all up.
So
because there's boycott penalty. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. And this is the issue. I made it clear it wasn't about.
This is the part that I love personally about the contract, because like he has every right to basically say, dog, you're hiring me to be racist. Why would you penalize me for being racist and then getting clapped for it? It's literally a funding vehicle for the right to go overboard, get banned, and then push people to a paywall where you can be as unhinged as you want. Okay, he would never say that. Yeah, of course he's not going to say that, but I do understand why he's mad. I do get why he gets upset at that clause, for sure. But like, this could have been discussed over the phone, where in a secret conversation, not a recorded one, where Jeremy Boring was probably going to tell him, hey, listen, you just got to dial it back a little bit. You're too overboard. We love your shit. We love how racist you get. It's cool. Just don't go overboard. That's it. Just like, don't get banned. That's it. We need you as a propaganda mouthpiece, but when you get banned, we don't have that propaganda mouthpiece any longer. Like, getting banned, maybe, you know what? We'll make concessions, okay? We'll let you get banned once a quarter, okay? A quarterly ban for you, which will immediately boost our mug club numbers, and that's fine. But just once a quarter. Keep it to a quarter,
I'd probably be mad too.
I will imply it.
I don't think it gives you an excuse to go and talk the way like every girl does who gets their husband into a fight at a bar, but I understand why she was upset. If you had the ability, if someone's going out saying, hey, you're a difficult person who only cares about the money and that you're a bitch, and you had the opportunity to clear it in because it was verifiably untrue, which now no one is arguing, would you do it? How else would people switch from, it was about a $50 million salary to, recording a phone call? Do we allow it when James O'Keefe does it? Is it only when corruption is on the side of the left? And here's the issue is, I'll tell you who this hurts, the dishonesty. I'm not just saying Daily Wire, this is about the entire movement as a whole. There are a lot of practices that go on, and it hurts the sponsors, hurts the creators, hurts the viewers, hurts the investors. And by investors with us, it's entirely Mug Club. It's people who pay to subscribe. We don't make a dime off of YouTube. We haven't for many years. And it hurts if you believe what we say we believe, the movement in the country as a whole. So that right there, is fundamentally dishonest. And the gaslighting still keeps taking place. Candace Owens on this show said, hey, we all follow the same guidelines, right? We all follow the same. Crowder does too. That's verifiably false. Now, so you can publicly audit this. We've had 4 strikes, right, since May, I think, 2021 to October 2022. One was the Mekhi Bryant. One was a sketch with Alex Jones. That one's guilty. One was
as charged.
One was him quoting the CDC. And by the way, none of this will get you in trouble because you can say this now. Him quoting the CDC.
I did, yeah.
Bringing up the CDC numbers on flu deaths for children versus COVID. And we were saying this is interesting science, right? That COVID kills more senior citizens, but for some reason it's significantly less lethal to young people, to infants. That science is accepted now, so you won't get a strike. But
it's so funny that they're mentioning it like this, as though that's the way that they described it. Okay? There's just no shot. Oh, we were just mentioning the science. Or you wouldn't know what science is if it bludgeoned you in the dome, okay? We're just using the CDC information. Come on, why?
that was one of the strikes. The other was when we had Carrie Lake on in a gubernatorial election. 4. How many have taken place from Daily Wire? You guys, 0. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying it's a badge of honor. I'm not saying that it's a badge of honor to be...
I'm not saying it's a badge of honor, but it's kind of a badge of honor.
Suspended. If they came out and said, look, we demand, as Jeremy said in his 55-minute video, we demand that all of our creators follow these rules that YouTube and Facebook set through punitive practices in mandating of our creators to do so. And Crowder's a little bit more of a rebel. You know what? He's been banned for 4 times. And that's not the same kind of... That's not a problem. The problem is saying that we all follow the same rules because so that's all publicly verifiable. Now, I could tell you guys that behind the scenes, I've had many conversations with senior YouTube executives who say, we might be able to get you remonetized if you kind of play ball like these guys, Daily Wire, and insert other people here. I could tell you that, but would you believe me? Or would I have to provide receipts? I could tell you that takes place. That hurts the creators.
That's I believe that. That's a bizarre take, but I believe it to a certain degree. Because I know Steven Crowder has an account manager. Okay? He has an account manager. I know that. That's a part of his job is as a YouTube content creator, there is an account manager associated with his account. Big enough YouTube content creator, of course. No, not his dad. I'm saying a person that works at YouTube manages his content. I'm sure that person's like, dude, please follow the standards and practices all the time. They're like, please, just if you want to make money on YouTube, just follow the goddamn rules. He takes that conversation and he goes, wow, that's really, you see that? It's big tech right here. Big tech right here, doing their thing. And I'm sure the account manager, Steven Crowder, is not exactly fond of him. You know what I mean? Because constantly getting clapped up, constantly permanently demonetized because he's an asshole. And the account manager also has to toe this delicate line where they have to make sure, you think their performance is tied to him? No, they have to manage his bitch ass while simultaneously understanding that if he gets penalized too much, the entire might of the conservative legal infrastructure is going to come after YouTube because they do it all the time. They are the biggest crybabies on the planet. This is the reason why every single conservative outlet, platform, anything that touches the media or anything that touches like social media in general has a fat legal team of the worst lawyers you've ever seen on retainer, whose entire job is to lose lawsuits. Okay? That's their entire job. They go out there and they hold up people with paperwork. They accrue millions of dollars of retainer fees on the other side as well. They're forcing all these platforms and everyone else to basically have also lawyers that are constantly working on these legal issues that they hold them up with. They get special treatment for that reason, and then they still fuck up. Like Rumble sues everybody, okay? They're constantly suing YouTube. They're always suing people under the guise of like defending free speech. And they have fat money lines, so it doesn't matter. They have billionaire investors that want them to do this. This is a great conversation to have. Just don't focus on billionaires stealing your, extracting your additional labor value, your surplus labor value. Focus on how YouTube is stopping you from saying the N-word instead.
Ceiling that is set, the sandbox that is mandated to their creators. The same thing happens with sponsors.
Well, let me ask you real quick. What does that mean, play ball? Obviously, you're paraphrasing, but...
Yeah, paraphrasing. Titles, subjects, not talk about this subject or not talk about it in this way.
Yeah.
Maybe soften, don't use these words. Maybe change this a little bit. This happens a lot right behind the scenes, and that makes it impossible for independent content creators. The same thing happens, by the way. So that's gaslighting that you see right there. We all follow the same rules. It was about money, then it's about a phone call. With sponsors, look.
But if I could ask you, did YouTube reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to play ball with us?
Yeah, we have conversations all the time with YouTube.
Got it.
Matter of fact, I can tell you that. Here's the thing. I'm not going to be providing receipts to people who don't want to be involved. Right? Yeah. There's a difference between single-party consent state and wiretapping. You don't rope people in who are victims, but if it's an entity that you believe is predatory, that's the difference. There are good people at YouTube. There are some good people there who want, but their hands are tied. And guess what? Everyone else's hands are tied. If you say, hey, we're all trying to fight this system that exists, but you're not. You're mandating that you exist within the system. Only one.
Are you worried you might get copy strike live again, or does that not apply to this show? That's such a weird question to ask, man. No, I don't think Tim Pool is going to copy strike me for doing commentary over his video.
One person is saying, hey, you know what? If you want to be monetized and you don't, that's fine. And one is saying, you have to
Why is that a weird question? Because it's an odd question because it's like a known thing that people on YouTube don't do this.
Fit into this box.
Very important context to this is, obviously after you put out the first video, I've talked with a bunch of my friends and they said, look, the Daily Wire is trying to run a business. If he gets banned off YouTube, how are they going to sell ads? How are they going to do the sponsorships? Where his views are gone.
Yeah.
And I've seen people tweet, all of Crowder's views come from YouTube anyway, so he'd basically be unmonetizable if he was banned. And then I point out, first of all, that's just categorically false.
Yeah, it's not true.
Because Rumble exists. And
Ben streamed there for the first time today.
And this is an important context. The contract you were offered says Facebook, Apple, I said YouTube, Apple, Facebook, Spotify, but it didn't mention any of your views from any other platforms. And there's Google Podcasts. They get views. I know the numbers. Obviously, it's not the same as say Apple, but it's interesting to me that for a lot of people, like Dan Bongino, for instance, had more subscribers on Rumble than YouTube.
Yeah.
It's interesting then that their attitude is, if you're banned from YouTube, it's a 20% fee reduction, which you mentioned includes your staff
25.
salary. 25.
And then 25 for and then another 20. It's 45. In other words, for us, right off the bat. And this is the thing. I said, like, is this an accident? Like, in other words, okay, we're good.
But let me
friends. But hold on a second. Does anyone here have a problem? Do you not believe me when I say we haven't been monetized on YouTube for 3 years? You all know that, right?
Of course.
Literally,
and we're not that close.
0 days, or did you have?
So what happened is we were demonetized. How many years ago? Then someone accidentally remonetized us for like 4 months, and then demonetized. And then demonetized again. We were like, "What happened?" And they were like, "Yeah, actually, no, sorry, you're demonetized again." I was like, "Well, skunked again."
So what did we do to get monetized, basically?
So if you get demonetized on YouTube so much and it makes no money for you, why don't you just take all of your content to Rumble? What could be the reason why you still want to stay on YouTube when you very clearly have this alternative bastion of conservative ideas, this free speech only space, as a matter of fact? So what's up with that? Why is it these guys are always on big tech when they have created alternatives to big tech Is it perhaps because little tech, if you want to call it that, is not real? There's no real reach there? Because it's so odd that they try to always justify, like, Rumble, sweet. I mean, I got more subscribers on Rumble than anything else. I mean, I'm doing it on Rumble. It's like, then why aren't you just on Rumble? If there was a platform that routinely banned me, okay, and I had an alternative to that platform that was even larger, like TikTok. I get banned on TikTok regularly, right? But I also understand the awesome power that TikTok has with respect to reach, which is part of the reason why I don't want to get banned on TikTok. It's major exposure. It's major reach. These guys act like, you know, Rumble is the actual competitor to YouTube, and it's actually huge. Meanwhile, they also personally understand, they recognize that it's all botted to hell. It's not real views, which is why they try to stay desperately on YouTube.
First they can't answer, right?
I want to make sure this point is made clear for everybody, because this is a very important part of the argument when I heard it. If the point is you can't sell ads or build an audience because YouTube banned you and that's it, but you're getting 85% or more views on Rumble, the question is, why no penalty for getting banned from Rumble? Why is Rumble not a consideration in the contract?
Yeah, if you're getting 85% or more views on Rumble, that's a good question. Maybe you should double down on that question and ask yourself that question and go, what's up? Why do you want to stay on YouTube then? I wonder why no penalty on getting banned on Rumble. Well, one, because you'll never get banned on Rumble. And two, Rumble doesn't matter. It's not real. But Tim can't say that. You want to know why? Because he's on Rumble. Because every conservative has to maintain this lie that, like, Rumble is real. Rumble is a real platform. It's actually a really good YouTube competitor. Meanwhile, I'm willing to bet they spend the majority of funds after, obviously, video hosting services. The majority of Rumble's funds probably go to legal, specifically so that they can turn around consistently battle the free speech fighters like YouTube. Like, what would they have? Like, no advertisers whatsoever. All their advertisers are like dog shit, like Truth Social advertisers, you know, selling gold and shit, and Iraqi dinars. Okay, that's the only thing you're getting
at all. And why don't they simply say comparable views instead of the platform?
Right.
Like, if for every 1 million views per day you lose, we dock you X%.
I can answer you that question exactly, because
So what happened?
It's fundamental to the business model. And I was informed of that. It is fundamental. In other words, there are plenty of options out there, right? He can tell you. I get excited when I walk out of them and go, hey, how many people are tuning in live on YouTube? How many on Rumble? They go, oh, it's tips. There are more people on Rumble. Sure, I've been on YouTube for a long time, since 2006. But it doesn't mean that they don't change, right? And the issue is, I think it's a great thing to use these platforms. There's a huge difference, by the way, between being monetized and being on the platform.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we believe what we say, we have to be trying to get to the point where we know that fast forward 5 years, you can't speak the truth on YouTube, certainly not if you want to be monetized. But there's this jockeying for position with people who they see as competition. And the issue here that I've always made clear is the locking in of these punitive contracts that mandate and enforce big tech policies and guidelines as a matter of business. And that hurts creators. And the same thing, by the way, when we're talking about misleading practices with sponsors. There's no problem, right? And this is all publicly verifiable. I want you guys to be able to audit this so that there don't have to be as many receipts provided. You market your channel, right? I think we probably have some ads running right now, like Spotify, like, hey, if you like this show, tune in on Spotify. Yeah. But there's a big difference. We know that there's a huge problem in our industry of pay to play. Now, you can do that. That's fine if you want to grow your numbers. But
what is that?
So pay to play means that you can buy views, right? You can pay to play. You can run your video as a pre-roll ad, and people see that number. But really, a lot of them are 14-second views, 8-second views, but it still clicks that counter. The closest apples to apples comparison that you could do right now is you could go out and take, like, let's say, not this controversy because there's cross-pollination, but Ben Shapiro's a huge show. Of course he is. But go take some videos there right now that have 1 million plays. Go month after month. Take a bunch of them. Look at the likes. Look at the comments. Take videos from my channel. It's comparable plays. Take them with 800,000, 600,000 plays because we've converted them a lot to Rumble. Look at the likes, look at the comments. It's startling because it's a lot easier to buy plays than it is to buy likes and comments. That's not a problem.
Wait, are you saying that the Daily Wire is buying views for their content?
I'm saying that they run the videos. This happens not just Daily Wire, to be clear. Stop Big Con is designed because it's the entire industry. And what happens is, yes, these views get inflated. There's nothing wrong with running ads to increase the video count. The problem is this. When that is used to then go out and...
I mean, he's not wrong. They do that. They 100% do that. A big chunk of advertising revenue goes back into inflating view counts on YouTube. It is hilarious to turn around and act like you can't view bot Rumble, though, when it's infinitely easier to just view bot a website like Rumble. It is funny, though, to think about, like, these major conservative commentators, like, they buy millions and millions of dollars of ads of their own content specifically to make it seem like their content is being viewed by more people.
And set sponsorship rates. And then this is what happens with creators. When you sit down with sponsors, and these are hard-earned dollars, right? A lot of them are mid-sized companies. You run them on this show and they say, yeah, but you know what? We didn't get our money's worth, and this person is the #1 show, because they go out and they say that they have these numbers, and they set what happens? They drop those rates across the board, which hurts everybody, or they pull out altogether. Now, you can publicly verify that information.
Yeah, this practice is very commonplace, and it's done all the time in every avenue of media, by the way. But one of the grossest and very obvious, transparent ways that they do it is the New York Times bestseller list. Everybody wants to be on the New York Times bestseller list. So what do conservatives do? They will literally write a book. Step 1, write a book. Step 2, get conservative lobbyists to purchase like thousands and thousands and thousands of copies of said books that will never be read by a human being, okay? They're just rotting in a goddamn basement somewhere. Ultimately, there's pallets of these books sitting in basements somewhere in D.C., but doesn't matter. Now it's on the New York Times bestseller list. Don Jr. did this. Every single person did this. Every single conservative that has made it to the bestseller list has always purchased done this exact same thing.
I could tell you guys that I've had conversations with sponsors that say, we're not going to be running in the conservative space because it's just not as effective as we thought it was, or you know what, we're going to be pulling out. And content creators just say, why am I getting these low advertising rates? Here's the issue. If you're some kid, and by kid I mean, you know, you could be a 40-year-old with a smaller podcast. Let's say you get 250,000 plays. Not as big, but good numbers. Let's say you get 500,000.
Another way that conservative big con makes money is speaking engagements, which is why they always like go after Hillary Clinton and shit, which is understandable. Hillary Clinton does that shit too. Speaking engagements is another way to like funnel funds, additional funds into like conservative speakers. Every college campus, some of them will literally double you. Like alumnus will double the speaking engagement money that like a particular group is able to pay for a Ben Shapiro. He's getting paid like $75,000, and then also getting another 75 on top of that from the alumnus, the right-wing conservative alumni of that institution. They do it all the time. That's also another way that they are constantly churning out more money.
Good numbers, but they're real. And you are a conservative,
what it is,
and
I
you're
guess.
trying to grow this. And then all of a sudden, your content, YouTube is saying, can't say that, can't do that because of the box that's being created by all of these companies in big conservatism. And then you're trying to make it, right? You're trying to make it something that is financially solvent, and you can't because sponsors no longer have faith in this side of the industry. That is something that hurts those creators. And this is something that, so the creators are hurt, the sponsors are hurt, the viewers are hurt because I just want to finish this one, and then any questions you have. The viewers are hurt because they feel isolated. They feel like their views are not represented, right? They go, hold on a second, I'm conservative. Why are none of the top people saying whatever it is? X, Y, Z. And the investors are hurt. And I don't mean billionaires. In our case, it's people who invest. When they sign up for Mug Club, they are paying us because they say, we know that you're demonetized. We know that you don't run nearly as many sponsors. You're very selective. And we think we are giving you our dollar in faith because we think that you are fighting for us. Let me give you one final parallel world there. Imagine if we left the blaze.
Anyway, we're done with the valid discourse.
And this,
stupid.
again, the issue is that everyone is demanded to sign these exact same contracts. That's what they said. They've been very, very clear about that. It's just business. Imagine if Mug Club leaves the blaze. And let's say we come back 2-3 months. Okay? And we come back, and all of a sudden, I don't talk about vaccines in the way that I used to. All of a sudden, I don't talk about election integrity like I used to. All of a sudden, I don't host Carrie Lake in the same way that I used to, or host her at all. And all of a sudden, all the parodies, the sketches, you know, the sweeping epic, like a parody of Saving Private Ryan, or There Will Be Blood, or Schindler's List, whatever it is, you don't see any, change my mind. You don't see any of those anymore, but you see 4 or 5 live reads. I'd be the definition of a sellout. And I would be selling out the people who paid for something different. Only one group of people here is saying you have to fit into this box. I'm saying you got to let some people let the freak flag fly. I don't care if you want to be monetized or not. Don't lock people and punish them on behalf of big tech when you claim that you are fighting them. And it is everywhere. And it's disheartening.
As stupid as this conversation is, as silly, like there's numerous different things that I want to say about this. One, I don't think that Steven Crowder has a genuine interest here, okay? I think he has a secondary interest, or rather a real interest here. And that interest is he wants to build an email list for himself. He saw how much money Alex Jones is making. He saw how much money everyone else is making when they're independent. He knows that, like, if he has an email list for himself, that's the way. That's the way to go. Okay? He just wants to run up the numbers, and he wanted to be controversial, and he wanted to eat away at some people's audiences. The other stupid part of this conversation, though, is not that he's also disingenuous, but he's also simultaneously complaining about, like, being, I don't know. Why are email lists so powerful? You can sell it to political operatives. He basically wants to create his own membership, because Mug Club was under the Blaze. So the Blaze was getting all revenue. He was getting a kickback, probably.
I'll tell you a story. I think the people who have watched my content consistently know about this. It was called some refer to it as ad rights sales, ad rights buying. Back in the early 2010s, these up and coming digital media outlets would sell the rights. What they would do is they would buy the rights to views. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're a company called like badbehavior.com. You know, some word that represents people.
Why'd you pick one that is clearly going to direct people to hardcore pornography?
Yeah. All right, let's just say
goodbehavior.com.
Yeah.
Skittles and Rainbows website, okay? And
same.
Big okay.
Bodacious M&M's website.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's say you're a big brand, and you get about 30 million views per month. Mm-hmm. That's not going to cut it. You can sell a premium idea. There would be these low tier websites. You've seen them before. You'll see an ad and it'll say, "Guess what this celebrity looks like now." You click it, and then it'll say, "Here's the celebrity throughout 25 years," and every photo has 50 ads, and you click next, and it loads a new page with 50 ads. What they're doing is harvesting views.
Right.
So then, this website that nobody knows the name of, nobody visits, tricks you into collecting a view. They then sell the rights to those views to a premium network. The premium network then goes to advertisers and says, our network gets 200 million views per month. Right. And if you advertise with us, you are in that network. And in reality, they only get 30, but they bought the rights to those
meanwhile,
ads.
there's some kid who's actually getting 10 million views, right? Meanwhile, there's some kid, and he doesn't get the same advertiser rates because he gets burned. And then those kids drop out. Does anyone ever wonder why the burnout rate is so high in this industry? There are so many good people. I mean, you can go back to when I was on PJTV in 2009. People who I worked with, good, solid people who, by the way, had skin in the game, who had a lot to lose. And you'll never hear from them again because they just go, I'm out. They get dis.
I didn't realize there was a right-wing media figure burnout happening, dude. Oh man, it is pretty funny that like Steven Crowder is all about workers' rights now, and he is reminded that he is the worker here in this moment.
Disenfranchised. They get disenchanted.
And the autonomy he's referencing is not even about like benefits or compensation. It's about the right to be racist. I'm losing it.
And that's the issue. Look, it doesn't affect me. I'll be fine either way. But we've always talked about building a bench, and I've always talked about wanting to be able to pass the torch. It's not possible to do this way. And by the way you know this is true is right now I have said I don't want to do this. Again, I've been thinking about this for a long time, trying to work behind the scenes, trying to work within the system until I realized there's just no interest in doing it that way. And then you say, okay, is our move, this is why we lose. Conservatives wonder, what the hell? What the midterms? What the hell happened?
None of this shit makes any sense, dude. You're anti-worker. Like most of your commentary revolves around being anti-worker. It doesn't make sense if you're like, if you're trying to like change the Daily Wire from the outside, like just do your own thing. I don't get it. Like you're like, I don't like the funding mechanism of Daily Wire being over reliant on like YouTube and not being banned off YouTube they should use a better way to fund themselves so they can be as racist as they want to without YouTube, while simultaneously everybody in the process understands that YouTube still has the largest audience. If that was the case, then you would never go on YouTube. You just be on Rumble. But nobody wants to be on Rumble because everybody understands that Rumble is fake. It's fake views. They need the real audience.
Why do you think? Why do you think people like Lindsey Graham, like Mitch McConnell, nothing personal against them, why do you think that there are people out there and you go, how do they not get voted out? Why do you think these are our decisions for speaker? These are our choices. Why do you think you constantly lose? Because the people who really do want to be the vanguard at the cutting edge, they burn out and they leave because they can't compete against it. And that's the issue.
I got to tell you, man, I make this point all the time where I just say, for all the people who are claiming I'm a grifter or I only want money and that I don't really believe the things I'm fighting for, I'm like, it would be so much easier to sell everything, shut it all down, and just buy some properties, rent them out, and not have to worry about it.
Again, while I was playing Valorant, this was the part where we were watching, and I loved this take because, like, I always say it would be infinitely easier to be a right-wing grifter. I would make so much more money. Notice how he doesn't say I would just grift for the left. I would just quit and become a landlord. It's so much easier to be a landlord, which is true. Being a landlord is pretty easy. Understand that, right? Like, you get why right-wingers don't turn around and say, oh, yeah, it would be so much easier if I was a left-wing commentator. I would just become a left-wing grifter commentator and then, cultivate an audience of unhinged weirdos that are going to yell at you for every little thing and exist and operate in a space where you're trying to cultivate an audience that's broader of unhinged weirdos that are constantly woke scolding and like seeing you in the absolute worst lens possible, despite the fact that they adore you or have adored you in the past and have given you money because they think your commentary is good and valid, and yet they still turn around and are insanely uncharitable. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants an audience full of mentally ill, uncharitable freaks. Okay? You do this for the love of the game.